Guess what I said? Man, I don't want to talk no more. I'm gonna sit down and talk to her. If Jay Prince want to sit down and talk to me, I'm bringing the FBI and the police.
I never will. I don't know what type of town let one mother run something. Oh, that's a weak town. Don't know one mother run nothing in Dallas nor Fort Worth. No wonder they mob tied. No wonder everybody got to check in, y'all. Now I'm checking in with the police department. Police department told me, hey man, you got a problem with Mr. James Prince. Austin, we hear you got a problem with James Prince. Like a bunch of to me. I see what. But he don't have a mob. And he not a mob.
You know, quote unquote celebrities checking in and things like that. I feel like a lot of people when
make
you go
that white boy check in. Yeah, make the white boy motorcycle game. Homie, nah, Houston is a player town, homie. Long as you don't check in to Jay Prince Jr. Jay Prince Jr., everything happened around him. Boy, not the city of Houston.
When Charleston White sets his sights on somebody, it never stays just talk. It becomes a full-blown storm with real names caught in it. And this time, he's going straight for Houston's so-called royal family. Jay Prince Sr. and Jay Prince Jr., what started as a postponed youth event, quickly spiraled into something much bigger. Suddenly, there were whispers of power plays, political pressure, and behind-the-scenes control shaking the whole city. Charleston hopped online, chest out, and swore, I promise to God, I just got the call, and it came straight from the mayor's office in the gang unit. Then he dropped that one-liner that froze every timeline cold. Y'all can suck my. Left it hanging, half-censored, fully intentional. That's when the question hit heavy. Is Charleston White exposing what everyone else is too scared to touch? Or is he digging a grave too deep to climb out of? He didn't flinch. He said the call was real, the pressure was real, and he made it known that he's not backing down, not silencing himself, and definitely not bowing to anyone just because they got a powerful last name in Houston. I just got the call from Houston's mayor's office, from the gang unit.
Jay Prince really don't run Houston. He's been a mythical figure in the entertainment hip hop culture world, but in the streets, in the prison systems, he's not recognized in identity.
He repeated, voice sharp with defiance. They scared, and you know what I'm telling them? Y'all can suck my. With that, he hit another nerve, the myth itself, because in his words, yeah, Jay Prince Sr. might be a legend in hip-hop history, but that doesn't mean he runs Houston. Not the streets, and definitely not the prison system.
Of Houston, saying, hey, we hear there's some issues with Charleston White and James Prince. Don't you think it's a little too early to have this conflict? She said, well, listen, I'm not stopping my event. I ain't stopping my event. I got a black male that's scared of James Prince. I bet if it was a white person, they wouldn't be scared of Rap Without Record. I bet they got a black police chief. You better keep jumping on. You better keep jumping. Cause I'm one of you ESG. I'm telling Mob Tie, Rap a lot, y'all can suck my. Do y'all hear that woman's voice? Do y'all hear the pain in that woman's voice? Now you knowing this was a goddamn kids event for over a month. But because Jay Prince, because I refused to sit down with you, y'all called my manager and I told you sitting down with.
Charleston positioned himself as the one bold enough to say the quiet part out loud. To him, this ain't just content, it's war. He's not out here chasing views or trying to trend for a week. He's trying to shatter a whole narrative that's been protected for years. And just like that, the energy around him flipped overnight. To his supporters, he sounded like a whistleblower finally exposing the untouchables. But to his critics, he looked like a reckless fire starter daring men with real pull to come check him. Either way, the moment he claimed city officials were calling his phone and vowed he'd never fold, the noise got deafening. He wanted folks to understand this wasn't about scheduling issues. It was about principle. The event didn't stall because of logistics. It stalled because Charleston refused to bow. And that's the spark that lit everything that followed. But the real shocker wasn't the cancellation. It was what he said it exposed. Charleston didn't just question power. He went straight for the foundation. In his words, Jay Prince don't run Houston. He stripped the legend down to myth. saying that name might hold clout at music labels and award shows, but not in the streets or behind bars, where real respect gets weighed differently. That statement wasn't made to trend. It was built to break illusions. Charleston framed it plain.
Tell you how weak mob ties is. There's no such thing as a mob ties. It's a fictitious name. They're not a mob. Mob ties is like the white boy from Malibu Most Wanted. Jay Prince Jr. and his son, they like the Malibu from Most Wanted. They're not no real gangsters.
When he calls out the princes, it's not for views, it's war. And is not backing off that stance 1 inch. His not whispering from the sidelines. His standing in the middle of the fire, arguing that corporate fame don't equal street command. He reminded everyone exactly who he is, Texas-born, scarred from his own mistakes, and shaped by time spent in the system. He turned that pain into purpose, using it to preach discipline 1 minute and destruction of false codes the next. He'll talk accountability with his chest out, then flip it by torching the check-in culture and the myth that a last name buys automatic respect. That's why his voice cuts through the noise. He says what others dodge. In his eyes, the aura around the Prince legacy being louder than the receipts. He said, "Mob ties? Man, that sound like a movie title, not a movement." To him, the name is branding, slick, profitable, and hollow, and is not shy about saying it. Charleston marked the image like it was cosplay for the culture, the kind of myth that sounds powerful until somebody actually checks the credentials. He doubled down, saying the problem isn't just a name, it's how people let names like that define power. That's where the fuse really hit the gas. Because mocking mob ties isn't just comedy, it's blasphemy in Houston circles. It's the one phrase that commands automatic reverence, and Charleston stripped it bare on camera.
I don't know what type of town let one run something. That's a weak town. Don't know one motherfucker run nothing in Dallas nor Fort Worth. And surely not no entertainment motherfucker. Like a Jay Prince kind of guy.
Yeah.
Jay Prince really don't run Houston. He's been a mythical figure in the entertainment hip hop culture world, but in the streets, in the prison systems, he's not recognized and identified as a mob boss.
He called it a PR slogan for fear, something that sounds tough but folds under pressure. That was his warning shot. That street credibility has turned into a brand, and the brand has started to believe its own hype. So when Charleston said there's no mob ties, it wasn't denial, it was defiance. He was saying that the people running around behind those words are selling illusions, not leadership. And the internet, it ate that up. Clips of him laughing while calling it a marketing trick started flooding feeds. And just like that, the conversation split wide open. Some said he was exposing fake power. Others said he was begging for a war he couldn't win. But that's a Charleston White formula. Say the unsayable, shake the table, and let the room decide who's telling the truth. And this time, he wasn't just poking the bear. He was kicking the whole cage open. He's turning the whole check-in culture into performance art. Charleston saying, if you want fear, go earn it, don't invoice it. That's why he repeats the same lines, not because he's running out of words, but because he's trying to crack an illusion that's been polished for decades. Every time he says Jay Prince doesn't run Houston, he's swinging a hammer at the mythology people treat like gospel. To Charleston, this isn't rebellion, it's correction. He paints the princes as symbols of a system that worships reputation over proof. Their influence, he argues, stretches from boardrooms to police backchannels, not because of dominance, but because no one ever dared to test the narrative. So when he mocks mob ties, he's not trolling for laughs. He's pressing a nerve that runs through Houston's cultural bloodstream. It's a challenge to the unwritten rule that some names can't be questioned. That's why his defiance feels so dangerous. He's not negotiating or playing politics. He's pulling the mask off power and daring the room to admit what's underneath. The way he tells it, the Houston mayor's office and even the gang unit reached out, not to threaten, but to tiptoe. They scared of him, he said. That line alone flipped everything. Suddenly, it wasn't about comedy shows or content. It was about how deep that fear runs and who benefits from it staying that way. Charleston turned that call into Exhibit A, proof that respect and intimidation are often the same product with different packaging. He framed it as a moment where image met influence, and both flinched. So when he taunted, "I check in with the police," he wasn't backing down. He was flipping the table, mocking the idea that checking in makes you safe. To him, it only proves the system is built on silence, and he refuses to whisper. Then he walks that line like it's painted in fire. Charleston doubles down, saying Jay Prince doesn't run Houston, not the streets, not the system, not the people. He calls the mogul's reputation a fairy tale that lives in hip-hop mythology, not in real places where consequences are counted in blood, not bars. But in the same breath, he flips it, saying that Verimir still moves phones, bends police attention, and slows events with invisible weight. It's a contradiction on purpose. He's showing how even a ghost of power can still make real people flinch. He keeps hammering that "I just got the call" line like a chorus, turning it from gossip into gospel. To Charleston, that call wasn't concern. It was control. He paints the picture clear. When you speak on the wrong names, the echo you get back doesn't come from trolls online. It comes from voices you never called. In his eyes, this isn't a feud. It's a collision, his truth crashing head-on into a network that moves in whispers, not interviews. And he refuses to bow. No private meetings, no quiet apologies, no invisible handshake deals. Just fire on top of pressure. He swears the city's involvement wasn't about safety or scheduling. It was about shutting him up. So he answered with the only weapon he trusts, volume. He called names, burned a myth, and dared Houston to prove him wrong. That's when the story jumped from talk to trouble. His kid's mentorship event, something he'd been locked into for over a month, suddenly went cold. Calls started bouncing between the mayor's office and community leaders, warning that Charleston's presence meant conflict. He called it what it was, a power play dressed as concern, dragging children into adult politics. He didn't take it quietly. He went live, furious, saying he wasn't sitting down with anybody and he wasn't softening his tone to get back on the bill. He said organizers were spooked by outside pressure. They scared of rap a lot. And if checking in was mandatory, he'd do it with the police, not with a clique. Then came the bombshell moment. He dropped that half-censored line again, raw and deliberate, making it clear he'd rather go down swinging than bow to a name he doesn't respect. That's when the mentorship angle lit the fuse. Charleston said people knew the event was for kids, and they still turned it political because he wouldn't kiss the ring. He claimed a woman reached out to officials with a chilling message. If he speaks, we can hurt him at a kids' event. That's where he drew his final line, saying real power should protect children, not use them as collateral. Then came the receipts. Screenshots, messages, timestamps, all flashing across his stream as proof. He said this wasn't rumor. This was a machinery moving in plain sight. And then came the moment that split the internet. On live stream, Charleston flashed a weapon, a signal. He said that he wouldn't be cornered. Supporters called it self-defense. Critics called it a meltdown waiting to happen. But either way, the energy shifted overnight. What started as a local standoff exploded into a national firestorm. Timelines flooded, radio shows chimed in, and suddenly this wasn't just a Houston story. It was a culture-wide reckoning. Charleston said the mayor's office was getting flooded with calls, and when Miss Pat promised to keep the event going while he cooled off, that didn't calm him down. To him, it confirmed everything he'd been saying, that the pressure was real, just dressed up as concern. He called it a test. Would he fold for access or stand tall and take the fallout? He chose the second and dared anyone to prove him wrong. Then came the silence. No word from Jay Prince Sr., no post from Jay Prince Jr., not a caption, not a quote. That quiet hit louder than a diss track. Some saw it as power. Others saw it as strategy. But either way, it left Charleston's voice echoing without an answer, and speculation did the rest. Houston split down the middle. City figures brush him off as a loud provocateur chasing a viral spark, but even they couldn't shake the whisper that maybe, just maybe, there was truth tucked in his chaos. That truth and the madness idea kept the story breathing long after it should have died. The officials didn't help. Charleston's claims about city pressure and police calls were neither confirmed nor denied, that gray zone where rumors grow legs. He pointed straight at that silence and said it proved everything. Critics clapped back, saying you can't convict people with quiet. But the tension didn't fade. It spread. Every clip, every post, Every stream just pulled a line tighter. The internet turned into a courtroom. One side called him reckless, a man poking an empire with nothing but Wi-Fi and a pistol, dragging kids' events into grown man politics. The other side crowned him a truth teller, saying he exposed the ugly part of check-in culture that turned respect into a toll booth. It became silence versus volume. He shouted into the dark, and the dark didn't shout back. That imbalance made people pick sides. Do you respect the quiet because real power doesn't argue, or do you question it because real transparency doesn't hide? Each day of no reply made Charleston look either braver or more alone. Then he dug deeper. He dragged history into the room, patterns, paperwork, and past receipts. He said the Trey and Zedro scuffle was a perfect example, playing out in public while police stood still, like the rules bent around certain names. He asked out loud why that scene looked so careful, so muted. Then he went further, questioning why some people outside law enforcement seemed to have access to open case files and police reports that should have been sealed. He called at the real clue. If they can pull folders the public can't touch, that's not myth, that's muscle. From there, Charleston zoomed out and hit the check-in culture again. He said, if the code's real, it should hit everyone the same, artists, influencers, bikers, whoever. But it doesn't. It only hits where it's easy and disappears where money and status live. In his eyes, that's not respect, that's selective power. And he wasn't letting that slide. He brought up names that never stop haunting hip-hop, FBG Duck, King Von, and asked why outrage fades when it's convenient. He said mothers wait on apologies that never come, while people clap to songs built on their sons' deaths. That's a line dividing his fans and his critics. Supporters say Charleston forces conversations everyone else ducks. Critics say he's playing with fire, using mourning as a megaphone. But even there, he refused to blink. He circled back to HPD, repeating that the department's too friendly with Rap-A-Lot, and even the feds can't crack it. Everybody knows. He said, you can watch it happen on camera and nobody moves. To him, that's the point. Real influence doesn't need to threaten you. It just needs everyone to pretend they didn't see. Charleston repeats that line like a drum because he knows repetition is a hammer. He wants that picture cracked wide open. This is a collision. Legacy and symbolism on one side, a loud skeptic on the other. The princes get treated like a civic institution, power that moves from studio deals to city meetings, and Charleston refuses to treat any of it as untouchable. He says the aura was built for rooms where image wins a coin toss, and is here to flip the coin and show the scratches. To him, the only honest test is whether a name holds weight in the streets or only at award shows. He bangs a, I just got the call line over and over, turning an anecdote into an anthem. If your voice targets the wrong names, the noise you hear back isn't just trolls. It's numbers you don't dial. Charleston frames this as a collision with a network that doesn't argue on podcasts. It moves in back channels. He vows no private sit-downs, no soft apologies, no quiet handshakes. His choosing volume over whispers. That posture forces a yes or no. Is mob ties muscle or marketing dressed up as muscle? Then he names names and paints the receipts. The kid's mentorship event he'd been locked into for weeks froze, not because of logistics, but because phones lit up and doors shut. He says the call came from the mayor's office and the gang unit, not a venue manager. And that's Exhibit A. To him, it proved the conversation isn't about a flyer. It's about who can make a phone call to pull a show. He turned the kid's day into a battlefield to prove the point. If power can shut a room, what does that say about who controls access? When organizers promised to keep the event, Charleston smelled the laundering. Concern dressed as pressure, and he refused the deal. He said a woman told officials, if he speaks, we can hurt him at a kid's event. And that was a line he drew in permanent ink. That's when he flashed a weapon on stream, a move supporters called standing ground and critics called reckless. Either way, the temperature changed. A local scuffle became national headlines. Timeline filled up, and radio shows circled like sharks. The silence from the princes did more work than any rebuttal could. No posts, no quotes. That quiet turned into a megaphone for Charleston's version. People chose sides. Some called the silence power. Real bosses don't engage. Others said the quiet is convenient because you can't clip a contradiction if you never speak. That gray area, neither confirmed nor denied, is where rumors grow legs, and Charleston fed that loop with patterns, paperwork, and history. He pulled up past incidents and asked the hard question, who gets a pass and who gets left outside? Strip away the noise and you land on 3 words: power, risk, narrative. Charleston's betting sunlight beats backroom certainty. Naming names stacks risk. Supporters call it courage. Critics call it chaos. The other side silence is a flex for some, cowardice for others. This isn't just a flyer pulled off a wall. It's a map of influence under the city, touching money, access, and who gets the last word when doors close. So what's next? Silence that holds, a clean rebuttal with signatures and timestamps, or the story fading because power prefers shadows. Either way, the choice will tell us what kind of city Houston really wants to be. If you want, I can now stitch this with your earlier sections into one continuous viral script, same tone, same length, ready to record. I'll format it tighter for your video edit, timestamps, punch-in points, and on-screen prompt suggestions. Which do you want me to do next? You only strike a nerve when you hit the truth, so deep it can't be ignored. That's exactly what happened, and now they gotta come back swinging. These guys are supposed to be tough, right? When they feel disrespected, they feel like they gotta pull up and prove a point. But see the trap there? Pulling up only proves Charleston's thesis, that you settle things with violence, and that proves you're hollow. Violence ain't the only way to settle things. Words, talk, negotiation, those things matter and de-escalate. These circles aren't used to someone on the internet checking them and exposing everything they built their rep on. That blindsides them. They don't know how to handle that because their usual move was to stamp out opposition quick. Now the crowd's rallying behind Charleston, and that stings. It hits deep when your own people don't side with you. Charleston's point about the princes working with police? He said it bluntly. These guys move like they are tied to the feds. It's alleged, sure, but to him it makes sense when things slide under the radar. Think about Takeoff at that dice game. In another city, that'd be a RICO sweep. In New York, they'd have flipped the script and locked down every link. That's the contrast is pointing at. Different cities, different rules. He called Houston weak for allowing that kind of power to run unchecked. He called the government, the police, the entire machine cowardly for letting certain names move without consequence. That's a scorching claim, but it's the engine of his argument. If influence can pull strings, then power isn't earned, it's purchased. And when that happens, the system protects itself, not the people. Then the Livestream moment made everything worse. He flashed a weapon, and the internet split clean. Some called it standing your ground. Others called it dangerous grandstanding. Either way, the vibe changed. Local noise turned national headlines. Radio shows picked it up. Timeline flooded. The princes stayed silent, and that silence worked like a megaphone for Charleston's story. No rebuttal, no counters, just a vacuum people filled with their own verdicts. Strip all the hype away, and it comes down to this: power, risk, narrative. Charleston's betting sunlight beats backroom deals. Naming names stacks risk, but it also forces a conversation. The other side silence could be a flex or a dodge. Either way, it leaves space for doubt. So what now? Silence that holds, a clean rebuttal with timestamps, or the whole thing fade because power prefers shadows? That's the question Houston's gonna answer, whether it likes it or not. You understand? The second anybody in another city thought they were bigger than the system, they'd be gone. But in Houston, it feels like the people in power folded. I'm not talking about civilians. I'm talking about the folks in charge, the government, the mayor, the senators, the police. All cowards, no backbone, just letting one family move unchecked. That's what's wild. How does a city with that much pride move this soft? Look at Chicago. The PD over there might be rough, might be overwhelmed, but they still stand up. They don't let one crew act like they own the place. Philly? Please. That kind of power play would have been over before it started. In Philly, in New York, in Boston. Soon as someone starts talking like they run the whole city, they'd get checked immediately. Nobody's giving a free pass to that kind of arrogance. So how is Houston letting this rock? How is one last name calling shots in 2025 like it's a mob era? That's a question that keeps getting louder, because no other city would let that happen. Not on the East Coast, not in the Midwest. The idea that one family runs a show is embarrassing. It makes the people in charge look like spectators in their own house. And that's the core of Charleston's argument. It's not just about street control. It's about the system being complicit. When power won't police power, the rules disappear. The gangsters stop fearing consequence, the officials stop pretending they care, and the only people left playing fair are the ones getting played. That's a setup, a city where influence outranks accountability. So that's what it really comes down to with Houston. At some point, you just got to accept weakness when you see it. You can't force courage into people who are comfortable being controlled. They have to find that strength on their own, and clearly, they haven't. Charleston White called it out plain. Houston's problem isn't the noise, it's the silence. And no matter how many people call it embarrassing, the ones in power still won't move. He's not wrong about that Dallas and Fort Worth comparison either. Because let's be honest, if the Prince family tried that same play up north, they'd get checked quick. Dallas don't play those games. Fort Worth don't play those games. That kind of grip wouldn't even last a week. The fact that Houston lets it fly says everything. It's not about one family being strong. It's about everyone else being afraid to stand up. That's what makes it so sad. A whole city moving like they're scared of their own shadow. You can't build pride off that. You can't build respect off that. Charleston saying what most people won't admit. Houston turns soft while pretending to be tough. And until somebody breaks that cycle, they'll keep letting the same names pull the same strings while pretending it's culture. And I'll tell you this, where I'm from, that could never happen. My people don't fold like that. We'd rather fight to the last breath than bow down to one family acting like they own the block. That's not pride, that's principle. So yeah, call it what it is, weakness dress up as tradition. Because if the only way you can keep order is by fear, then maybe you never had power in the first place. Man, for real, I just want to take a second to thank everybody who's been rocking with me. The ones commenting, liking, sharing, showing up every single time. I see you all. The first commenters, the loyal ones, the people who never miss a drop. You are the reason this movement's actually turning into something real. This isn't just a channel anymore. It's a community, a mission. Because what we're doing here is bigger than views. We're breaking people out of programs. We're waking folks up, the youth, the grown, even the elders who've been following the wrong light for too long. We're cutting through the noise, bringing truth where lies been living rent-free, and making sure these dark systems can't keep feeding off our minds and spirits. That's the real work. So to every single person who supported, who's helped spread this message, I mean this from the heart, you're part of something special. You're part of something that's shifting the culture one video at a time. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep pushing the truth forward. Because together, we're cleansing what's been corrupted. We're building something they can't silence.